Welcome, y'all!
Woo!
That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 43, Green Flag Racing Time. It's Wednesday, April 6, 2016. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace, joined as always by Pregame Engineer Andrew Shoren. What's happening, man?
Rusty's always way better at his radio voice, but welcome to the continuing fastest growing podcast on the internet. How y'all doing?
Well, you know, the reason I'm good at the radio voice, I write down all those words just so I make sure I get the intro right.
And I get brain locked because I just make mine up on the spot.
Well, we're remote this time. We're trying it once again. It was either do this thing remote or don't do it at all this week. And, you know, we kind of owe it to the PETM posse to make sure we've got something coming at you every week. So we've got this thing jerry-rigged and rednecked up. I think it's working, and time will tell.
Yeah, we got some wedge booger jacked in there.
That's for sure. Well, man, usually, you know what the first thing we do is, what you drinking? However, I think today, man, we're drinking for Merle, ain't we?
Yeah, I think we'll just podcast and drink. How about that?
I think so. So, Mama tried.
Mama tried her damnedest, but she just didn't get it done. And so her son's got a glass of the clear stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A little ice, a little tonic. I believe this might be some of that pineapple brandy that our guy picked up for us.
We know a guy. So, old Rusty's got 3 airplane bottles of the beamiest of Jim and a little bottle of Coke here. And
nice.
When you mix those two things together, you get something like this. And for those on the Periscope looking, there's my big old ice bucket. I got the mobile drink station here ready to roll.
Oh, did you fill up the sink with beer and ice like I do when I go?
Not quite beer this time. Well, Rusty, as some of y'all probably know, I've been sober for about 5 days thanks to a sinus infection, which you can probably hear right now. But thankfully, I think I'm on the other end of that hump. On hump day.
Well, that's good. I don't think you're the only one. There's a lot of people that are sick right now, whether it's allergies or some kind of creeping crud somebody got from a daycare center.
Yeah, no kidding. So I think we're also drinking. Let's give a big cheers to 900 followers on the Tweeter box there.
How cool is that?
The PETM posse.
How do we cheers on this thing? You just got to
just
like
hit the camera.
There we go.
Yeah,
like it's the camera. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So awesome. Way to go, PETM posse. We're thrilled to death. People have been sending in pictures of their stickers. We'll talk about it here in a bit. But the reason we are remote, old Rusty is in Silver Spring, Maryland. So near our nation's capital, probably about 15 miles north of that. And I had a funny story that I figured I'd share with the group here, with the posse. I was coming in. I think it was the last time I was here. I come here probably every 3 weeks or so. And the last time I came, the old Uber driver taking me back from Baltimore, Washington International, whatever BWI means, airport, and he was driving me over here, and he said, "Oh, you know what? I'm from Silver Spring. I grew up there." And I said, "Man, that's awesome. That's real cool." I said, "You know, I've been coming here for a year, probably every 3 weeks, and I've been looking for a good seafood place to go to because I just can't find one right here in the town square and around it." I said, "Is there anywhere close? Maybe I can get the inside scoop. Maybe this fella can drop a little knowledge on old Rusty here and give me some seafood place to go to."
Culinary knowledge.
Old boy says, "Oh, man, I got just a place for you." I said, "Oh, yeah?" He said, "It's right there in the town square." And I said, "Man, the town square, this boy is really about to drop some knowledge because old Rusty been in the town square. I mean, I live in the town square when I'm here." I said, "So what is it, man?" He goes, "Well, here it is. It's a Red Lobster right there in the town square."
Nuh-uh.
The conversation, now it's about a 40-minute ride from the airport to here. And in minute number 5, the conversation was over. There was no more talking.
Sucks. This is a great time for one of those facepalm gifts.
Yeah, right. Just slap. Okay. So that was the end of that. But
get them Cheddar Bay biscuits, man.
Oh, man, all the Cheddar Bay biscuits you can eat over there at the Red Lobster here in Silver Spring, Maryland. Get that Maryland crab somewhere else. We're going for the all-you-can-eat shrimp basket deal. So episode number 43, man. Let's talk NASCAR. 43 that's a hell of a number.
It's a hell of a number. And we started sort of last week realizing that perhaps we had missed a couple of fun opportunities along the way to to connect historical numbers with the episode number of the show, but who thought we'd ever get to 43? So,
Yeah, right.
I think I wanted to talk a little bit about Richard Petty, obviously. Everybody knows he won a whole bunch of races, and he won 7 championships, and he won the Daytona 500 when Ronald Reagan flew in, looked like he landed on the back stretch of the Speedway there.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things there's a couple of things about him that I think are really cool, just real quick, because we got so much content tonight, is that, Richard Petty, he never even drove a race car until he was like 21. And I thought that was really interesting considering today's development. And another thing is, in the old days, and when I say old days, I'm talking the 60s, when Richard got started, he used to race with a rag in his mouth so that he wouldn't get dirt and soot and tire debris and whatever else in his mouth. So he'd be riding around the racetrack with a white washcloth just hanging out his mouth.
Well, that is the perfect episode number 43 thing to talk about with 43, just because, like you said, everybody knows he's run all the way. We can sit here and just drop stats and be boring. But I did not know he didn't start racing until he's 21, especially, like you said, with the people now who, they start at 9 years old, 11 years old. If you ain't starting at 11 years old, you ain't racing.
Well, yeah. I mean, Kevin Harvick had his 3-year-old out in the driveway practicing skid stops in his little go-kart.
Yeah. So that's nuts. And the rag thing, there's all kinds of stuff in the old days that you just can't imagine now. How about Dick Trickle lighting up a cigarette and rolling around the track smoking? There's a couple other, Buck Farmer, I think maybe was one of those that did that. But the thing about it, the thing that's sort of in the back of your mind intuitive about, well, if he's riding around with a rag in his mouth, he sure as hell ain't talking on the radio. Mm-hmm.
And that's because there wasn't radios.
Right, they had them big signs.
They just did it sight unseen. They used a chalkboard to tell the driver when to pit. And it just it'd be really interesting to take a snapshot of those days and just kind of be able to park yourself. Maybe virtual reality one day will let us do it.
Imagine Jimmy Johnson just lighting up a Marlboro Red right there. I'd eat my hat.
That's funny. I don't care who you are. That's funny. Use the Dan Whitney comedy line.
Yeah, right. Old Larry. Martinsville. Let's talk about Martinsville. So we had a whole race this weekend. How about that? And old Rusty actually made his plane flight later so I could catch the whole race, which
it's about damn time.
I know. I finally got me a calendar and figured it out. But what'd you think of that race?
Man, it's Martinsville. I love that place. It is, without a doubt, my favorite place to watch a race on television.
I don't want to say that it grows on me because it's not like I hated it at one time and now it's getting better. But I think I noticed so much more that's going on now. And lap after lap, and the amount of bumping and banging and old school NASCAR racing that was going on in that race, that was really cool. That's something, that is unique in a lot of ways to Martinsville.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, every lap somebody's getting nailed from behind to either say, sorry, we're all jammed up here, or, hey, I'm back here and I'd really like to go around you, which is cool to see that. It's cool to see banged up race cars that can still win the race or be competitive. And I think just along your lines of the more you watch it, the more you learn. And we talk about this with Tyre and Bat and some other folks about being nerds when it comes to racing. And all it really does for us is it causes us to pay attention to more things that are happening, and that just continues to make it more interesting as we go.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. I mean, flag to flag, stripe to stripe. I had a good old time watching. So I thought it was a great race. I had a blast. It was 3.5 hours, maybe a little less than 3.5 hours. So, it was the right time and everything for a good old Sunday afternoon sitting around watching a race.
Well, I think a lot of people commented on Twitter about it being a 3-hour race and how that was really good for NASCAR, and we could go off on a tangent on that at some other point, maybe later when we start talking about Texas. But, yeah, Martinsville was great. I think there's probably a lot of fans that and this is probably segue to the Kyle Busch segment of the week because he swept the races, and people are going to feel a certain kind of way about that. But it was his first win in any kind of vehicle at Martinsville, and it was pretty obvious that running the truck was good for him in terms of what he was able to do on Sunday.
So I knew that he hadn't won the Cup race. I had until they said it really at the beginning of the truck race when we started watching. I didn't know that he hadn't won in a truck there either.
Right, and of course the Xfinity hadn't raced there, and who knows how long. I can't remember when. We probably weren't really diehard fans at that point to know. But yeah, I mean, it's cool for him. He had one of those great moments in traffic on the way leaving the Cup race where he pulled up next to a fan, saw she had a Kyle Busch hat on, and just kind of said, "Hey, what's up?" And she flipped her lid.
That was the funniest thing. She passed her hat over to him. He signed it, and he was just so – I mean, he was cool as a Christmas tree.
Well, he asked. He told her to give him her hat, so she could sign it. Yes.
And he had a Sharpie locked and loaded too. I mean, that's somebody who signs a lot of stuff right there.
Well, that's somebody who knows how to self-activate and understands personal marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps you understand that he's smart, he's aware, and maybe it's a good time to transition into the next thing I wanted to say about him is deep down, whether you're a reporter or whether you're a fan of the sport, don't you want Kyle Busch to have the Fontana moment and then have the Martinsville moment? Doesn't that make it all better?
I mean, it makes it more dramatic, and if you're talking about a media person or something, absolutely, it makes it more fun.
Well, I don't think so. Kyle and certainly Samantha have been really good at social media, so I don't think the fans lack for any attention from them. So I think it's time for the media folk to realize that with Twitter and Facebook, they're less important. So when they start bitching about a driver not doing an interview and saying it's because of the fans, not really. It's because you need the clicks.
Yep. And so
the fans are getting what they want from Kyle.
And I think, too, that I mean, it's been said over and over again over the last few days that there is no other sport where that happens. When's the last time you saw any sport have a member of the sport reach out to a fan as opposed to the other way around? I mean, he probably had to sign – how many things you think he already signed that day and that weekend and had to be at this thing, had to be at that thing, and blah, 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 blah. He probably wants to sit in his car if it were me. So I'm saying he's better than me at that. If it were me, I'd just want to sit in my car, although he was excited. I was surprised he was sitting there in traffic with everybody. Shoot, he's just won the race. What is he doing in traffic, by the way?
I think it's pretty normal for those guys at a track like that where you're probably just driving home anyway, because it's only like 100 miles from home, if that, depending on where you live. I think that's pretty normal. I think it's pretty normal that Kyle would drive the car since Sam needs to be watching over the baby. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty normal. Well, I don't know about premier drivers like Kyle Busch, but it's pretty normal for some high-profile crew folk and drivers to drive home from the race.
Yeah, that was I can't even say how cool I thought that was, and especially because old Rusty was on high a little bit because somebody in this room that I'm sitting in has called 2 winners in a row.
Yeah, why don't you just take that job and shove it or whatever? Johnny Paycheck, not Merle Haggard, but still.
I've got my pick lined up for Texas, and it's either going to be crash or well, I was going to say crash or burn, but those are the same thing. Records or checkers, checkers or records.
I think that's the way it's going to be. So why? Since you said that, that sparked something in my brain that I didn't put in the notes. So here's a mini drop of knowledge, or just you know what? We ask y'all to ask us questions. Podcast folks, we want to ask the world a question. And I asked this of Door Bumper Clear, but they didn't read my question this week, which is fine. But my question was, were we surprised that so many crew chiefs were out to lunch on the temperature thing with the track not taking any rubber? And on that same token, how cool was that camera on Clint Boyer's right rear tire? they could show that wear where they'd set the camera up.
Oh yeah, yeah, and you could see that bead that had formed. And I was texting. We were texting back and forth, and I said, "Ain't nobody gonna pit because somebody's fixing to crash. Look at all these. Look at all these tires that are down to the cords. Somebody's fixing to crash. You just hope it ain't you.
Right.
You definitely ain't gonna pit because you're gonna lose all kinds of laps.
Right. If you pit under green at Martinsville and it's not on cycle, you're going to lose at least 2.
Right. And they were talking on the TV, these guys, somebody's got to pit. And it's like, nope, somebody just got to crash. That's all it's going to take.
Right. Right. And it really, that's pretty much the way it went.
Yeah. So besides Kyle Busch, I mean, he had the weekend sweep. I don't know if we even want to breach the subject, whatever the word is again, on Kyle being in the lower series like that.
No, we'll leave that alone. Why don't we talk about how much of a wreck fest the last 30 laps of the truck race was?
He couldn't finish the race. It was just one of those, just get this over with. Every time they restarted, he just jumped out 4 car lengths. Who's fixing to win. Let's just get this thing over with.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
But overall, I mean, I had a blast watching that race. There were a few guys in contention, so I don't know. I still enjoyed the race myself, and even though we had a lot of wreckers there at the end.
Well, I thought it was a great warm up to the basketball. Unfortunately, the basketball didn't really live up to its end of the bargain. The NCAA tournament Saturday night, the Final Four was pretty miserable.
Oh yeah, a couple mercy rule games that happened.
Yeah,
it's for sure.
Then, I mean, obviously they got it turned around Monday night. That's one of the best finishes in the history of the tournament. So that was pretty cool.
I was sitting right over there, if I can point to it. I was sitting right over there on that bed and watching it and just going, I cannot believe what I'm seeing right now. Uh-oh, the phone says it's about to die.
Uh-oh.
PETM Posse needs to stay alive here.
You got a cord?
I got a cord.
All right, well, maybe I can carry the show for a minute while you hunt it down.
It's all good.
So, why not? You want to transition to Texas?
Before we go to Texas, let's talk about Dinger for a second, huh?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Well, we got to talk about – so Dinger gets a top 2. Larson gets a third, and was it Dillon was 4th or 5th? We had a very interesting top 5, and I don't think it was any surprise that Kyle was in the top 5, as we already discussed. But it was the first time that he's won. But what a good run for the Dinger! Always good to see him run, and he had a really good car. If they'd have run 20 more laps, who knows what would have happened? Yeah,
and not only that, when he got out of the car, he was just ecstatic, and that was really cool to see again. A car or a driver getting that happy about what's going on. Well, Periscope folks, I maybe fixed it. I maybe didn't. If I did, great. If I didn't, then in about 5 minutes, this thing's just going to die a horrible death, and you'll just have to catch the rest of it on the old iTunes or whatever else. So sorry if I messed that one up.
Yeah.
We're so professional here, as you can see.
No kidding. Well, that's a good thing we don't try to be. We don't pretend to be.
You know what? Drop us a little knowledge, actually, because you had a good comment to me about Hamlin wheel hopping.
Oh, yeah. So Denny Hamlin, all of a sudden out of nowhere, you see him coming into turn 1 like he never had a brake pad and just knocked the fence down.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gets out and he does his interview and he's kind of laughing. He's kind of like, I don't think I've ever done that in a cup car, he said, but I wheel hopped and lost it. And it makes you wonder, okay, so what's the definition of wheel hopping? I think people that have been around the sport have an idea. When they say wheel hop, that means that the gripping tires, the rear tires, are bouncing up and down. They're not always in full contact with the surface, and there's a couple of different things that can cause that. I've personally experienced it in my passenger car when I downshifted, try to make a corner more fun, but I downshifted to too low of a gear at too low of an RPM. And what happens is the rear end of the car will come out from underneath you, which is exactly what happened to Denny. Now, in this case, these guys aren't shifting, So what happens is some combination of RPM, reverse horsepower, and braking causes the rear end gear to bind with the transmission, which in turn puts a lot of stress on the axle, on the rear axle, and causes everything to kind of vibrate and bounce up and down. And when you do that going into a flat corner at 130 miles an hour, like a Cup car does, there's no recourse. Like once the rear end's gone, it's gone. You don't knock the fence down.
He gone.
He gone. So I think what happened was Denny probably didn't get off the gas as quickly as he needed to get on the brake, and some combination of still being in throttle and being on the brake caused the wheel hop phenomenon, the bind in the rear end gear, and boom, 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 bam.
That'll happen. The heat'll do that, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on from Martinsville. Let's talk about, you know what? This is a good segue, or a good time to do some segue stuff. The PETM posse sent us in some questions this week, didn't they?
They sure did.
I'm not going to say I'll say they're not as cerebral, if I can use my $5 word for the podcast.
Well, I do have one cerebral question to add. Not so much cerebral as a predictive, but we do have, this time we have a fun question. We have a little bit questionable question. And then we have what do you think about this particular driver at this particular place question?
Okay. So first one is Ashley J. Stang, and she asked, boxers or briefs? And y'all, there ain't no question that's off limits here at the PETM podcast, other than I'm not going to cuss on this thing, but boxers or briefs? Let's see here. No, I'm not going to show you my undies, but
no, please don't.
Old Rusty's a boxer guy. Always done the whole boxer thing. I guess if I'm working out, I might get them tight boxers and boxer brief things. But yeah, boxers for old Rusty. How about you, Sherwin?
Well, this is a good chance for me to plug a sponsor that's not giving us any money.
Ooh, I think there's a good chance.
old Sherwin is a boxer briefs guy.
Uh-huh.
So the hybrid version, and been really loving my MeUndies. I got to tell you what, they're nice.
The Toyota Prius of underwear.
That's right.
The hybrid. So,
and between Fighter and the Kid, Joe Rogan, and Bill Burr, I still have no idea how to pronounce the fiber that's used, whether it's modal or modal or whatever.
Model. So there you go, Ashley J. Stang at Ashley J. Stange. There's your boxes of briefs. Second question comes from our loyal follower Scorpio at KCJO38824. And Scorpio's question is now a little bit of backstory. Peyton Manning and Dale Earnhardt Jr. are going to meet up for, what is it, Sherwin?
Well, they're both spokesmen for Nationwide Insurance. So
that's right. Chicken parm, you taste so good.
That's right. Peyton's going to be at the track, as a guest of Nationwide, and Junior's sponsor is Nationwide, so they're going to get to meet.
Okay. So the question is Peyton Manning as excited to meet Dale Jr. as Dale Jr. is to meet Peyton Manning? Because Jr.'s been pretty, I guess, vocal on Twitter about being excited about this ordeal.
Yeah, well, most people know that follow Jr. that he's a huge football fan, mostly NFL, but he's very respectful of Peyton, and he's an excitable character. So what I would say is I bet Peyton is every bit as excited to meet Dale Jr. as Dale Jr. is to meet Peyton, but they both express that feeling very differently.
I think I'm going to disagree, and I'm going to say that Dale Jr. is a bigger fan of football in the way that, like, we're fans of football, just always been a fan of football. And so just his level of excitement to meet a football great is greater than Manning's, just because Manning, I don't know if he's as big a NASCAR fan as Junior is a football fan.
I'd have to agree with you 100% on that, for sure.
So I would say, I'm not sitting here pooping on on old
You're
Manning.
wrong.
I'm not pooping on Manning in that respect, but I mean, Dale Jr., he's like just like we just talked about. The NASCAR drivers are people like us, whereas I don't know. It feels like the football guys or big stars like the football guys are a little I shouldn't say that. I should just say that NASCAR is better than anybody at having the down-home kind of folks like that. So that's my thought on it.
Well, not only that, but NASCAR actually does a better job of exposure. I think a football player could very much hide for the entire season and then the entire off season if they want to.
That's true. NASCAR drivers have to go to media things. They have to go to fan things. They're reaching out a whole lot more.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Harvick was at Ollie's outlet over here in Madison, Georgia. I think it was this morning.
Good grief!
Yeah,
like completely out of the like map on where they're going and where they're headed and everything. So yeah, that's cool. What's the third question we got, man?
Okay, so the third question is, how do we think Chase Elliott is going to perform at Texas Motor Speedway? And that question comes in from Meg Poling at Meggie Dub, who was our star question submitter last week.
Well,
so what do we think about? I mean, I'll start by saying he was having a good run at Vegas till he landed in Matt Kenseth's trunk.
Yep.
And didn't he finish like 8th at Atlanta?
Yeah, he was top 10, I believe, if I remember, because we were talking about it. I think he was your dark horse that time.
Yeah. So I would say top 10's definitely in the wheelhouse.
Well, sure. And what I was going to say, of course, this is one of the I don't like calling them cookie cutter tracks, but that seems to be the vernacular for them because I enjoy these tracks. So cookie cutter seems to be negative in connotation, but it's one of the cookie cutter tracks. It's one of those that he has performed decently well at these others. He's got the potential to do really well, top 10, top 5 even, depending on what kind of car they bring and what his ordeal is. But I think he has a potential for it. I don't know, though. I think what's hard about this aero package too is that I think these mile and a halfers are where they're really shining and where it really takes a lot of driver experience and a lot of driver talent to get up there. And so I think he's got the talent, the experience part of it, and experiencing Texas and understanding that. And there's reasons that you might run into the back of Matt Kenseth, for example, versus somebody else who's more experienced might not. So that's a grab bag. I think he's got the potential certainly to be top 10, but I wouldn't I wouldn't put it past him to make a little mistake here or there that might cost him a few spots. But I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be top 10.
There's no reason to believe that he couldn't be a top 10 car. He's going to show up with a top 10 car. Let's put it that way. If everything plays out and he stays out of trouble and has good pit stops and yada, 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 I think we're going to be looking at, I think we should expect him to finish in the top 10. How about that?
Yeah. Well, let's take a detour. Let's take a corollary, as we'll call it, and say, what on earth is going on with Casey Kane?
I don't even know. I try not to think about it.
It's hard. It's hard being fans of his.
I get beat over the head constantly about it because it's like that fourth. We've already talked about it once, but the fourth car bad luck at Hendrick or whatever you want to call it. I think it's. We were also asked a little bit about Clint Boyer. I think it's some very similar things in that new team, new crew chief. Now, this is Keith's second year, so you would expect some improvement. Mm-hmm. But the whole trying to figure out a new guy, and we talk about how the driver crew chief relationship is just about the most important thing in sports, and in terms of having success. And hey, you know what? It's obvious that what Casey wants out of the car, they can't give it to him based on the feedback he's given. So I don't know where you point the finger. That's why I said last week. I said it's the whole team. It's everything.
Yeah.
Everything. It's what the car engineer's doing. It's what Keith's doing. It's the pit stops aren't great. Casey's making mistakes on the track. All of it adds up.
And it's just, it feels like he's got an anchor dropped out. I mean, he started second, outside pole. We're excited. Hey, finally, Casey gets to start somewhere decent. Maybe he's got a decent car because he's running well. And then what does he do but go a lap down, then go 2 laps down. And not like he wrecked to get 2 laps down. He just got lapped a bunch.
That and, I mean, we saw the same thing happen with Joey. So I guess it was probably 65 laps in, and Joey and Casey are both a lap down.
Well,
but the difference between Joey and Casey is
that's what I was fixing to say.
Joey finished, 5th or 6th?
Whatever he did.
He totally recovered because his car was fast enough. His team was able to adjust, stay on top of pit stops, and it was fast enough to get himself a lucky dog or wave around at the right point. We know as fans of the 5 car, if he goes a lap down, forget it. He's never getting that lap back. Most likely he's going to end up 2 laps down, and we're going to be talking about on lap, let's see if we're talking about Martinsville. We're going to be on lap 370, and his crew chief's going to go, you just ran the fastest lap out there. Well, that's fine. You're 2 laps down. It doesn't matter anymore.
That's and I think that goes back to what you're saying was they don't get this car right until way too late in the race when he's already laps down. And like you said, and we listen to that radio, and he comes on, he says, you're running faster than the leader right now, or you've run the fastest lap. And they'll even, sometimes the TV will put it up and they'll say, well, here's the fastest laps this race. Whoa, Casey Kane, who's 2 laps down, just ran the fastest. You're going, right. You're pulling your hair out going, why now?
Right, they'll put that bug up there that shows and the first guy will cross, and so he's number 1, and then the second guy comes in, and all of a sudden the 1 will drop from the 4th place guy to a guy 20 places down that's 2 laps down. They go, whoa!
yeah. What's he doing? They finally put the nitro juice in there or something.
Well, it's like we did see a few years ago he won at Pocono, but the race before that, if you recall, they broke a transmission on the get up to speed lap. All right, green. Oh, we broke. Yep. And then they spent 25 laps changing the transmission, and he went out and ran 75 of the fastest laps of the race.
Well, and the other difference between him and Joey is that Joey won a boatload of races last year, and Joey's going to win a boatload of races this year too.
That's exactly right.
So it's almost excusable for somebody else where you just mark it off as a outlier, not a normal. So
well, that's what I was talking about before. I want to hear somebody smarter than me that has more information tell me about why there was so many crew chiefs that couldn't predict that the rubber wasn't going to go down if it was only 50 degrees.
Well, you just walk into a joke right there when you say, I want to talk to somebody smarter than me. And I'm thinking, well, just walk outside, Bubba.
That's true. Ain't nobody out there either. But it would still be true.
Still be true. Oh, before I dig my own grave on that one, let's go to Texas.
Texas!
Yeah, so we're going to Tire Country. Shout out to Right Front Tire.
Country.
What up, Tire? So old Right Front Tire, he's going to be there. He's going to be hopefully doing some Periscope, the old Prince of Periscope, giving us a little inside look over there at Texas Motor Speedway.
He's got garage passes.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's going to be some interesting footage available from his account, I would expect.
I do also expect. So looking forward to that. You put together a little history of Texas Motor Speedway, and there's some fun videos out there for it too, but drop that knowledge on the PETM posse here.
Okay, so I listened to Nate Ryan's podcast, his NBC Sports Network podcast, which I posted as mandatory, not mandatory, but optional content leading into this. If you haven't listened to theirs, please do, or his. It's really good. They had Jeff Burton and Eddie Gossage on today. And so they were talking about the things that I didn't know about because you and I were not fans of NASCAR in 1997 when they ran the very first Interstate Batteries 500 at Texas Motor Speedway. So I had heard that maybe the first lap was a little bit adventurous. So I Googled until I was able to find some footage of that. And so Fox's broadcaster Darrell Waltrip, I'm sure you might be familiar with that name.
DW.
Was still racing at this time. He was racing for himself, I believe, in the Western Auto Chrome and Orange number 17 car. And he decided to pick a line going into one that he went from lane 2 to lane 1, entering turn 1, and well, Jimmy Spencer was in lane 1.
Somebody was there.
And about 18 cars got wrecked.
on lap 1/4.
Right, including, I believe Jeff Gordon was caught up in it, and so was Dale Earnhardt
Dale Earnhardt Sr. was in it. Everybody was in it. I can't imagine the people there.
Everybody was in it. Jeremy Mayfield in that car we never knew he ran in, the 37
something or other. And I texted you and I said, I didn't even know Jeremy Mayfield was in a car in 97. That was news to me. A lot of news to me in that one. But yeah, that was a wild wreck. I can't imagine being there. I mean, you're hyped up. You're a fan. You're hyped up. You're ready to go. You might be a Dale Earnhardt fan. You might be a Darrell Waltrip fan. There's all kinds of people you could be real. Jeff Gordon, is getting kicked off or kicking it off. And and Darrell Waltrip just takes everybody out. Heck with it on the first lap while you're still on your feet as the cars are coming across the stripe for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a bonehead move. It didn't work out for a whole bunch of people. I think there's some funny memory about him talking about remembering the Alamo in his interview. I think he was calling himself stupid. But yeah, a bunch of people got Waltripped. So that was an interesting start to the era there. But if you recall that race that Carl Edwards won at Atlanta, our second race that we went to, Jeff Gordon and Bobby Labonte wrecked right in front of us on the backstretch, tore up about 12 cars.
Right in front of us. And when Sherwin says right in front of us, dangerously, like after that wreck, they stopped letting people go up to the fence.
Right, that's right.
Stretch of Atlanta.
That's right, because sheet metal went into the fence.
Yeah, and we just got pelted by rubber and shrapnel and everything, and we're just laughing our butts off, not even thinking, oh, well, that was 190 mile an hour worth of, projectiles coming at us.
Right.
Oops.
Yeah. All right. So moving right along with the Texas stuff, that wasn't the only issue they had. Apparently, turn 4 was a real nightmare because of the way they transitioned the 24-degree banking to 5. And if you this is the reason why you have to go listen to Nate Ryan's podcast, because Jeff Burton, when he's speaking frankly with no rules, he says some really funny stuff. So here's what he said about Texas. He said, I'm gonna quote like verbatim because it's hilarious. He said that the folks that built Texas, which would have been SMI and Bruton Smith and his people, said when they built that racetrack, they said, we took a blueprint of Charlotte and we built another Charlotte. And Jeff said, well, somebody doesn't know how to draw. Because that place ain't Charlotte.
That's funny right there. If you can't laugh at that, you need to leave.
Yeah, so there was so much discussion about how difficult it was to get off turn 4 that Bruton spearheaded. He was the chairman of the track at the time. He spearheaded an apparel opportunity to make T-shirts that said, just shut up and drive. Actually, it just said, shut up and drive, because so many drivers had complained about it. But they actually did do some massage work, added some pavement, and changed the angle of descent or transition from the 24 degrees to the 5 in order to make it a little better. Didn't really get it done the way they wanted to for 98, but I think they ended up resurfacing the whole thing for 99. So the surface is still like 18 years old, 17 years old.
Which bodes well for good racing and for what the drivers like too.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
Let's do some picks.
Okay.
I think I get to go first again.
Man, I don't like you.
Well, you know what? I give you the props last week on going with rookie, I believe, if I remember right, was your pick. And I thought that was the coolest pick ever. I was happy with picking Kyle Busch, who had not won there yet, and getting it. If you remember, I did have a bit of a conundrum on whether to pick him last week or this week. I said I wouldn't pick him 2 weeks in a row, but I will pick his brethren.
Uh-oh.
It's time. And you know what? I'm sitting here thinking about who's it time to win a race and who has a good chance of it. Because like I said, last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, now's the time for these guys to strike. We're 20+% of the way through this preseason, or not preseason, but regular season. So it's time to strike now, and I think today's time to strike is Kurt. So I've got Kurt Busch for my pick.
Do you now?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I'm not going to pick. Well, obviously, I can't pick Kurt. I'm not going to pick Kyle, but I am going to pick his frustrated teammate. I'm going to pick Matt Kenseth to win the race.
Okay. Old Kenseth.
Kenseth makes a lot of speed at these fast tracks.
And he's due in a lot of ways. He's due. But, I mean, he's been running up front for, several races right now. It ain't like he's like that's some dark horse or whatever. He's on the cusp of a win right now.
I totally agree.
So, great pick there. So, dark horse picks. And, boy, old Rusty had not thought of a dark horse pick whatsoever in this one. I'll say this. I think I'm going to pick Kyle Larson, and here's the reason. I think his first win is going to come at a 1.5 miles. And so I'm just going to keep picking 1.5 miles till he wins it. Not really. I'm going to make it a little more fun throughout the season. But I'm going to pick him just because that's where I think his first win is going to come from, is from one of the cookie cutters.
You want to be like John Roberts and pick Biffle every week? Biffle going to be your Larson.
Oh my gosh! Oh yeah, I think you'd be picking for a long time if you keep picking Biff.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna beat a dead horse myself because I agree in that this particular driver is going to win his first race at a 1.5 miles. I'm going to pick Chase Elliott.
Okay. Yeah, I when you said I think this other driver will also, I was thinking, well, probably Chase. Because I can see like Austin Dillon winning at a, one of the not 1.5 mile tracks, something 2 mile or even a plate race or something.
That's funny. I've been watching the comments. I think it's a good time to jump in.
Go for it.
Tires all over the 3. And I saw that Cliff said he'd been seeing all day people picking 20. So, Cliff, I want to assure you that was a personal decision for me. Did not use any information that I didn't gather today because I didn't gather any. I didn't watch anything or read anything NASCAR outside of the historical Texas stuff.
Well, I've got a challenge for the PTM posse here. Our esteemed producer, the Frizz 11, she just got a new vehicle thanks to some dude deciding that he didn't like the rear end of her last vehicle and decided to plow into it with his truck. She's all fine. Ain't no problems there other than, we had to go car shopping, which is always a pain in the butt. Old Rusty does all right on doing car negotiations and stuff because, like we say, I'll just walk in there and tell him what I'm going to do and act like I'm owning the place. Anyway, so the old Frizz 11, she's got her new car. Man, that thing is pretty sweet. It's a Nissan Rogue 20 something or other. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's got the digital dash, if you will. So,
cool.
Running the 2016 NASCAR ordeal there. Here's one cool thing it's got, dude. So it's got 4 cameras on it, 1 in the front, 2 on either side, and 1 in the back. And when you throw that thing into reverse, it takes those cameras and digitally puts them together and does a whole fisheye thing and different things to make a 360-degree view around the car and shows you a top-down view of it. So when you throw it into reverse, it looks like a drone just got shot out of the top of the car and is looking down over the top of you 10 feet from above. It's crazy what they've done now.
Wow, that is craziness.
Yeah, we got in this car, and I'm just staring at that thing the whole time, just going, look at that. Oh, if you turn here, oh, my gosh, look at this thing. So I was like, all right, I like this one.
Reckon we'll be playing with that whenever the next time I come down there.
Ain't no doubt about that. So she's got a new car. It's got all the bells and whistles. There's one thing it ain't got. The car, it ain't got a name. And you got to name your car. So let's leave it up to the old PETM posse. Y'all, what do you think ought to be the name of our esteemed producer's new car? Y'all be nice. Or don't.
Or don't.
Or help give her a name there. So yeah, that's where she's at. What else, man?
Are we done?
Well, we're celebrating. We're celebrating 900 followers,
Yeah, we are. We celebrate the hell out of that. That's a lot of fun. I don't know that we ever set any real goals early on what this could be, but now we do have goals, which is cool, and we're making inroads towards those goals. The 1,000 by Richmond. I don't know if that'll hashtag will work, because I guess you could type all the letters for 1,000 by Richmond or 1,000 by RIR. So y'all get that going if you want to. That'll be fun.
We got some good names coming up. I saw Nancy the Nissan. I saw the poop emoji followed by kicker. So kicker. What is that? Roganham. Nizbatch. Nizbatch. Who was that? Oh, dadgummit, it just went away. Nizbatch. That was all right. That was good.
Nizbatch. I like it.
That's good. Y'all are creative. The PETM posse, man. People may have more listeners than the PETM podcast, but they ain't got the PETM posse behind them. I tell you what.
That's right.
So, do you know who our 900th follower was? Did you write that down?
I sent them a text, or not a text, but a message. But I would have been pretty cool of me to think about researching that ahead of time. But we get so many notifications, it's hard to.
Yeah. We'll definitely send you a message or something if you're one of our milestone followers. But let's get us to 1,000, everybody. So share us out there.
Well, what inevitably happens over the weekend or right after we post a podcast is we see a surge of what looks like inorganic followers. Mm-hmm. So we'll surge up over a particular mark, and then as a couple of days go by, like the advertiser type followers or the
porn
or the porn or whatever it is, they'll start to drop off, and what we're left with is the organic followers to build our base on, and so then we start building back up again. It's a weird deal. I don't want to use my $5 word of the week last week, but
sinusoidal.
Yeah,
is that the one?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Well, the door bumper clear guys got tripped up over tangential.
Tangential. What did they say?
The producer dropped tangential on them, and they got lost. They put it in the ditch.
Well, y'all, I think it's time to wind down, man. This has actually been a blast. Even though we're separate here and away from each other, the PETM posse kept it rolling on the Periscope.
Well, one thing that's I think really helped was me being hardlined, so I'll remember that for the future.
Yeah, that's good. And we
haven't had any skipping or anything.
Yeah, what was that?
Exactly. Y'all miss each other. Hey, we kind of do. We kind of miss each other.
Yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit. As always, y'all, if you want to hear more shenanigans, a little more craziness, something a little different, y'all make sure you follow the Over the Wall Race guys at Over the Wall Race. And you got Cliff and you got Tyre over there. They're kicking it up, doing something a little different and having a little fun, making
Right Sides Radio.
Right Sides Radio. Yeah, y'all be sure to follow all them. And they're, like I said, they're having their fun. As always, you know what? The problem this week, I did not go get me some jelly beans to do the jelly bean closeout challenge.
Oh,
so, I know. So we just gonna have to do this one off the cuff. We'll just drink our drink and do our thing.
Oh, well, let me go ahead and plug the beer that I had on deck that I hadn't got to because I've been running my mouth too much and this moonshine drink is strong. But I discovered a new IPA, and it comes from Texas.
Tejas, woo!
The Shiner Brewery Wicked Ram IPA, and it is right up our alley for the West Coast IPAs. It is very delicious. I'm going to do the...
Deep in the heart of Texas.
Deep in the heart of Texas, that's right. From Shiner, Texas. And it's really good, and I'm going to do the Shiner, Texas Wicked Ram IPA closeout challenge. I can't even think.
Well, as always, be sure to follow us at PETM Podcast.
How much if I can drink in this closeout?
Yeah, see how far you can get. Yep. I'm Tailgate Mayor at Tailgate Mayor. This is at PETM Podcast, like we said. Visit us on the website. What's the website, Sherwood?
Website is www.petmpodcast.com.
No kidding. And you on Twitter. Tell us yours.
Oh, my Twitter is at PregameENG.
All right. Well, y'all, we're looking forward to next week. We said it in the pre-show. We're saying it right now. Get ready for the coolest announcement in the history of the PETM podcast next week.
Also, DM us or email us if you want a sticker, because
get your sticker, y'all.
You need to get your sticker.
Get
Hashtag
your
PETM Posse.
PETM Posse. Next week, y'all. Next week. Biggest announcement in the history of PETM podcast. I peed my pants twice already.
Whoa.
Uh-oh. Look out.
Hey, you know what?
Oh, go ahead.
No. We're good.
We'll talk to y'all next week.
All right. Thanks for hanging around, y'all. Thumbs up.